Welcome back to Legislative Watch. I'm talking with Representative Lenore Barrett, who's in her 10th term in the Idaho State Legislature, and Representative Vito Barbieri, who is in his first term. And we've been talking about your thoughts about when you first came into office versus now. It's wonderful that you're not jaded after all this time and that you still are, even though you may feel battle scarred, you're still in there and you're fighting for the people of your district and actually the people of Idaho. I appreciate both of you. I was talking with a couple representatives, John Vanderwoude and Grant Burgoyne, a few weeks ago about the land bill. They were telling us that through the Land Board, they can they've actually acquired land, put businesses there, and run against private enterprise. They're in competition with private enterprise. Only private enterprise has to pay property tax, and they don't, so it doesn't seem fair. But I was told that a bill recently introduced by them went down in flames, or at least went down.
Very, very complex issue in terms of the Land Board is a trust. Mm-hmm. So the court has ruled that fiduciary obligation is to maximize profits. And it's very difficult to go in there and say, okay, then let's change the fiduciary obligation of the trust. And I believe that something along those lines will have to be done on a constitutional amendment basis, because it's so difficult to argue against their legal obligations, and at the same time they've just broken through the barrier. So if they can own storage facilities and put up windmills on endowment land, then they can just about do anything. And so somehow we've got to work to rein that back in again and bring them to just trustees and to facilitate what they're doing, what they have, their forests and what they have, instead of branching out into, they're saying, well, it's moving from land. Well, the storage facilities is on the land, so we blurred the line there.
Oh, my goodness.
And it just gets to be pretty wild.
Well, how can private businesses compete with this?
They can't, or probably won't. Why would they?
Yeah.
But then I thought we got that out of committee.
We may have, and I cannot speak to that.
Okay. Well, I was told, and I don't know if it's true, but I was told that the bill would not find favor with the governor. So we'll see, but I know that they've worked 2 years on this. And
working a little longer,
and then Representative Kathy Sims is talking about the bill that she was working on relative to urban renewal. And there's another instance where government's kind of there's no accountability with that situation, and again they can go into an area and compete with private enterprise to the things that they do.
Oh, they do compete. That's a serious issue as well.
It is, and we've sort of been nibbling away at the edges.
Well,
so
recently,
my personal conviction is that the land use bill needs to be repealed. But boy, talk about a stacked house.
Very difficult.
So what happens when you go back and talk to your constituents? I know when I was representing Canyon County, they wanted to be left alone. They wanted to be able to keep as much of the fruits of their labor, the hardworking people, and they believed that government had a proper role, but it wasn't to be involved in every aspect of their lives.
Well, I don't know who you talk to when you go home. Most of my folks do want to be left alone. But we have, well, maybe we don't have a world government yet, but we're going pretty fast down that track. So if that were the case, we'd have 5 levels of government, okay? You'd have your world government, you have your federal government, you have your state government, you have your county government, you have your city government, and every one of them is trying to beat the snot out of the taxpayer. And they're succeeding.
They're succeeding.
So how long before it tips so badly that everybody's working for the government, because there's a lot
Well,
of...
I think that the statistics are clear. If you nationwide, there are more government employees than there are in all of the industries of mining and forestry and healthcare. And you can name, I think, 9 of the major industries. There are more public employees than the 9 major industries. So that should tell you that it's going to tip at some point. But that's not talking about the recipients of the largesse, the welfare, the food stamps, the other constituents that are also draining from the system. So the system is doing very well, but what is it? How is it doing that? Borrowed money,
Parasitical.
$1.5 trillion a year now, and the financing. That's a whole other issue. This issue of how the federal government is financing. But just the offer of hope, the ray of hope. I am convinced that the internet and the ability for individuals to watch videos and to get information from the internet that was heretofore not available. First we had the 3 major networks, and then the cables came in, so there was some of that, but now that is pretty much being swallowed up by the mainstream, what I would call the mainstream. But the internet is still free, and I think that people are turning to that for their information, and they're having that seed is growing, that they're realizing that there is other perspectives out there that are looking toward throwing off the chains of these levels of government and control. And we have so far to go, and so many battles. And the idea that these regulations on all levels are just strangling the entrepreneur.
Well, and it's kind of parasitical in nature, isn't it? Because if you think about the entrepreneurs, if you think about the guy that's just going to work every day so that he can make enough money to feed his family and clothe them, they're the hosts, if you will, and government becomes the parasite that's draining from them by taking part of the fruits of their labor. How many months out of the year now do we work to pay our taxes? Almost half a year,
About
isn't
half
it?
a year, I think it's close.
So,
May.
What used to be May, I bet it's June.
I
by
think it's
now.
June.
so well, close to whatever.
Yeah.
You know, that's a lot of time to be working to pay taxes when your kids need shoes.
That's right, but don't forget, Liz, we have to help these people send their kids to college. And
Right.
we're going to have to subsidize their fuel bill.
Yeah, and we want to make sure that they get the contraceptives that they need. And
Oh, my.
Absolutely.
yeah, I saw that on television where one woman said that at her college she saw the trauma and the stress that some girls were going through at the thought that they wouldn't have their contraceptives paid for.
Well,
Hey.
they had twisted that.
Come on, you guys. The best contraceptive in the world is the chastity belt. They ought to bring it back.
What did my mother
You don't
used to
even
say?
know what that is,
Yes,
do
I
you?
do. My mother used to say, "Take 2 aspirin and hold them between your knees. No problem."
Oh, no.
Now, somebody got in trouble
Okay,
for saying that.
this
Oh,
is a family
really?
show,
Yeah.
kids.
Oh, pardon me.
No, the word was no.
Yes.
I mean,
But, you know, on a serious note, the churches and the other charitable organizations like the Salvation Army used to take care of these things. Unfortunately, now the churches are operated more like corporations and businesses, and the charity kind of is taken out of some of that. And so people look more to government to provide the things that are what we call entitlement programs.
That's so important in healthcare, I think. I mean, the whole idea that before charities ran the hospitals, and they were able to screen those that did not need treatment and those that did. And with the fairness doctrine that the government must have, it's impossible to do that screening. Everyone must be cared for, and that in and of itself begins that bleeding that is draining the system.
but that's something that should endear you to Obamacare, because they're going to screen
Well, you know,
and pick
here's
and
the-
choose and
Oh, yeah.
Here's the thing, you know, I don't know a single conservative or non-statist who wants our children to breathe dirty air or drink dirty water, and I don't know a single liberal or statist or whatever you want to call somebody that doesn't believe that way, who doesn't have family values. So it isn't a matter that some of us think that people should be helped and some of us think, no, they should just do it on their own. It's a matter of what the proper role of government is, isn't it?
Yes, yes. And then the reason that those other issues are discussed is to take it off of the subject of what the proper role of
Exactly.
government is.
And I think those lines really are getting blurred more and more. Well, so what do you see happening this during the last waning weeks of the legislature?
We'll all die. That might cheer some
not
of your viewers up. I don't know. It's really tough right now. The scheduling and on the floor, off the floor, back on the floor, off the floor, committee. In fact, I thought probably you'd gone off and left me tonight because I was still in committee. So I cut out because, and it's important to be there, especially for the votes. And I didn't want to miss the vote, but we weren't going to vote, I found out. So
Well, and here, now you've both got to struggle, too, to try and get back to your caucuses for the vote.
Can't do it.
Can't
No
do it.
struggle.
So,
Can't make
and
it.
with the new way that this is the first year that Idaho's had a caucus, and the way that the rules read, your votes could be very important votes, especially Lenore, in a county that's populated with fewer people. Your vote weighs heavy. An individual's vote really weighs heavy.
It wasn't well thought through, I think, in
Well,
terms of the way
we
that
could
the-
end up with a presidential nominee from the caucus, and the people will go in May on Super Tuesday to vote, and they may have a different opinion, but their opinion won't count, will it?
no.
Or it might not, you know.
Should have been on a
I
weekend.
don't think, well, maybe the system was broken. I think probably most of the systems are broken. But what we did on the voting, the primary in May, the presidential candidates, let everybody vote. We at least closed one loophole when we closed the
When
primary.
they closed the primary,
But
they might have overkilled in this caucus.
so the 30 or 40 people in a small county, and it's probably more or less than that do their caucus obligations, have more to say about it
That's
than
right.
the 300 or 400 people that might come out in the primary. And I
There's going to be some
frankly
shocked
don't think
people.
that's right.
I
There's
think it's going to be
some
very shocked.
Very shocked
And
people.
I've talked to people that I've known for years who think that when they go to the caucus, they're casting their vote, and then they can go home and it's over. They don't even know that they're doing it in rounds, and that you've got to stay there for your candidate until he drops off, if he does.
That's right.
And in the smaller
But
counties,
we
as you
wanted
said,
all these bozos to get out here so we could
so that we could
so we
feel
could
good.
join the country club.
Give us a king like all other nations. Well, thank you both for being on the program. It's always refreshing to talk to you both.
Thank you very much.
And
I-
thank you for being with us.